So this is probably the shortest small lecture of the upper limb, but it covers one very important concept, which is this drawing from your book on page 89. It might be on your page 91 because I have an old edition. This is called the brachial plexus. This is the nerve arrangement for the upper limb. And a plexus just means all these ventral primary rami from the rami of C5, C6, C7, C8, and T1 all come together and fuse and remix. The purpose of a plexus is to remix the nerves. So I want to point out that the main thing you have to be able to do with the brachial plexus is label it correctly, label it accurately. I might ask you to tell me which of the primary rami go into it. So you would get a drawing without this C5, C6, C7, C8, T1. You would have to be able to put those in. When we see C5 and C6, we see that they fuse here into making the upper trunk. C8 and T1 fuse to make the lower trunk, and C7 continues by itself to make the middle trunk. After the trunks, you have the cords. Now, the cords are named for posterior, medial, and lateral to the brachial artery, which is not in this drawing, but the upper trunk gets a piece of the middle trunk to make the lateral cord. The lower trunk will feed into the middle trunk with a piece from the upper trunk to make the posterior cord. So you can see how here this one comes down, here this piece comes up, and the extension, all three feed into the posterior cord. The lower trunk continues by itself to make the medial cord. Cords are then going to split into the nerves. The named nerves of the upper limb, where if I tell you a muscle and I say you must know this named nerve, then it is one of these 5 named nerves. So the posterior cord is going to split into the axillary or circumflex nerve. You may call it by either name. And it also continues into the radial nerve. The radial nerve will then go down the posterior arm and forearm. The axillary nerve goes to the shoulder. Both of those come from the posterior cord, which makes sense because they both go posterior. The lateral cord will continue into the musculocutaneous nerve. Musculocutaneous nerve goes to the anterior arm, but the lateral cord splits. Notice a branch comes this direction and the medial cord splits, and they fuse together to make the median with an N nerve. So it's very important that this is the median nerve, the medial cord, and the middle trunk. I know that's a lot to keep straight, but that's part of the labeling. So the median nerve comes to the anterior forearm. It actually does the anterior lateral forearm. This is the nerve that is most impacted and damaged when somebody has carpal tunnel syndrome. The medial cord also has a portion that continues straight. That is the ulnar nerve that is going to go to the anterior medial forearm. So I summarize that on this last slide. The brachial plexus results in the 5 named nerves. If I ask you the name of a nerve, you should know where it goes. So the axillary nerve, also called the circumflex nerve, goes to the shoulder. The radial nerve goes posterior, arm and forearm, all the way down to the hand. The musculocutaneous nerve stops at the elbow. It only goes to the anterior arm as a compartment. The median nerve with an N, median, goes to the anterior lateral forearm. Think of your thumb and your first 3 digits. So it goes to the anterior lateral forearm. The ulnar nerve goes to the anterior medial forearm. So median, ulnar, we're not going to do which muscle gets which nerve, so you just learn those together as the anterior forearm. Musculocutaneous is the anterior arm. Radial is the posterior arm and forearm. So if I have put it with the muscle, These are the 5 named nerves that you need to know.